What's up guys? In today's video, I'm gonna share with you the one simple hack that allowed me to virtually eliminate all guest complaints from all of our short-term rental properties, all of our Airbnbs overnight. And that is regular maintenance. It's a weird one, I know, and it's probably not what you're expecting, but hear me out. In this video, I'm gonna talk about why regular preventative maintenance at your property is way better than curative maintenance and how you can structure it properly. I'm gonna talk about the biggest mistake I see people making in this space that'll leave you completely high and dry and inundated with guest complaints. And I'm gonna share with you how to find really great, reliable maintenance people, all that in this video, so stay tuned. Let's start with why this is such an amazing hack for me and why regular preventative maintenance is way better than curative maintenance. And I'll share what I mean by those two terms as well. So when I first started out managing properties on Airbnb, I largely looked at it as, okay, properties need to be maintained when something breaks. So if something breaks, it needs to be fixed. And I still see a lot of people having that mentality, and I can't fault them. That's the way that I thought about it when I first got started. And what I've come to realize is that unless you're in maybe a condo where there's just very, very little maintenance need to be done, any freestanding home is going to have wear and tear and going to need regular maintenance of some sort. So there's typically going to be a yard that needs to be maintained, whether that's cutting the grass, raking the leaves, plowing the snow in the winter time. There's typically going to be like little small things that need to be done here and there. And so what I've found is that in the past, what I used to do is have my cleaning team go into a property that I had on Airbnb that has a short-term rental, and they would do the turnover. And if there was anything broken, they would then let us know to have a maintenance person go in there and fix it. And so we were always in reaction mode. We were always fixing problems. And that's what I call curative maintenance, kind of like curative medicine, right? You're going in because something is wrong. You're not going and eating healthy and going to the gym. You're just going to the doctor when something has already gone wrong. But good chances are, just like with our personal or physical health, if something's gone wrong, if we had taken the right steps a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, we probably could have prevented that thing from happening in the first place. And I always had this mentality of, well, it would just be way too expensive to have someone going in there regularly and just doing odds and ends of maintenance when it wasn't necessarily needed. So things like going in, unclogging drains, even though they weren't fully clogged up, just going in there and clearing them out. Going in there and making sure everything was in proper order, that if any little thing was out of place, they would just fix it up. If a shelf was hanging off a wall a little bit, they would screw it back in, tighten it back up, fix that, change this out, all these little things. And what I've found is that the complete opposite is true. It costs so much less to take care of your property when it's a short-term rental with preventative maintenance as opposed to curative maintenance. Now, for some things, we see this as being obvious. Like for example, the roof of the property. We know that the roof of the property, we don't want to wait until there's water leaking in through the roof to replace it. We know that we need to do preventative maintenance there and replace the roof before it becomes an issue. But for other things, I find that property owners and investors are often looking at it in the opposite way, where they're trying to do things in terms of just solving problems as opposed to preventing those problems from happening in the first place. What I've found is that we can virtually eliminate guest complaints and guest issues by having someone go into the property once every week and just do a once over, do a check, make sure everything's in proper order. Sure, sometimes all they're gonna do is go by there and mow the lawn a little bit, and it maybe isn't gonna be necessarily the best investment of their time for the time that it takes them to actually go out there, and they only stay for a short time. But other times they end up just catching things that need maintenance before it becomes an issue, and that means that we're not gonna have to deal with the guests complaining about it. We're not gonna have to deal with the guests being inconvenienced by it. We're not gonna have to deal with the negative review that it gets from the guests. We're not gonna have to deal with downtime on the property that causes because it's happening when a guest is there. And so all those things add up to a whole bunch of additional earnings. We can get better reviews, which means more bookings, less downtime, which means more bookings, and just overall have a much less stressful life because we're not dealing with issues that have come up and it's an emergency way to deal with them, but we're actually going and taking a more stabilized approach to it. What I found as well is that this really helps to avoid the biggest mistake that people make that really just leaves them high and dry. The number one mistake I see people make when it comes to maintaining their short-term rental property is that they have a really hard time finding good, reliable maintenance. I'm going to talk about that next, how to actually find really great, reliable maintenance people. And if you've ever tried, I'm sure you found out that it can be pretty challenging, especially if you're in a more rural location with your property. And so the biggest mistake I see people make is they put all this energy into finding a good person, and they're constantly calling them with emergencies. They're constantly calling them last minute when the guest told them that something needs fixing, and they're getting them to go by last minute. And that obviously is just going to burn that maintenance person out. Nobody wants to drop everything they're doing on a moment's notice and jet out to a property to fix something when a guest is there and the guest is upset and they're going to be frustrated with the person. That is just an awful scenario to be in. So that's a huge mistake, because what's going to happen is you're going to lose really great maintenance people because they just don't want to work with you, because it's not worth their time to have to drop what they're doing just to go and tend to your property that wasn't maintained properly or that something went wrong. Now, sure, you are still gonna have these emergencies come up, but I have a solution for that. Guys, just wanna take a quick break here to say that for those of you watching who want to build cash flow and long-term wealth by purchasing Airbnbs and short-term rental properties, there's a link in the description right down below for a free training that'll walk you through my exact strategy for investing successfully in Airbnbs. Now, if you're not ready to actually buy properties and you want to get started managing other people's properties on Airbnb, the same way I got started, and build a full-time income managing other people's properties, there's actually another free training linked in the description down below as well that'll be a really great fit for you. So whether you want to invest in short-term rental properties and actually build amazing cash flow and long-term wealth by acquiring the assets, buying the properties themselves, or you're looking to earn a full-time income managing other people's properties on Airbnb, we've got some awesome trainings that are linked in the description down below that'll definitely help you out. When you sign up for the trainings, we're also going to send you a few other tools and resources completely for free just to help you get started. Again, the links to sign up are in the description down below, and both trainings and all the tools are completely free. So make sure to register for the trainings, links in the description down below. What I recommend in terms of how to find really great, reliable maintenance people is look for someone that really knows their way around the property and is kind of a jack of all trades. So someone that can do a little bit of plumbing, maybe a little bit of electrical, maybe a little bit of maintenance here and there, can cut the lawn, can do all these other things so that you can get 90% of all the issues that come up, they're going to be able to solve. Sure, you are going to need tradespeople from time to time if there's like a severe plumbing or electrical issue, but most often that person is going to be able to take care of it. Have them go out of the property on the turnover when the cleaning team is there once a week. So if you have a turnover 2 times in a week, they only really need to go by once a week. And if you have a 2-week booking, then sure, they can go by just once every 2 weeks, or they can go by while the guest is there if you want to keep up with the once a week cadence. Once a week I found is really good because there's typically at least something for them to do on a weekly basis. Whether that's raking leaves, cutting the lawn, plowing the driveway, whatever it might be, there's always something they can do. And while they're there, make sure they do a once over to just look at the property as if it were their own and check to see if there's any maintenance needed. Now, I find that the best people to get for something like this is someone that's retired, that's looking for some extra work to do, that's handy, but that isn't necessarily looking to go and do this full time, because that means that they're going to be a lot more available and you can give them a nice steady flow of work. But the absolute worst thing you can do to that person is give them emergencies to deal with. No one goes into their retirement thinking, you know what? I want to put out someone else's fires for the rest of my retirement years. So what you want to do instead, because you are still going to have emergencies come up from time to time. I'm telling you right now, they're going to be way less frequent than what you're dealing with now if you're not already doing this regular maintenance. But for the emergencies that do come up, have yourself a list of 3, 5, 7, 10 different people that are maybe in different trades that you can have go by on an emergency basis. And just expect that you are going to pay a premium and that you are going to potentially burn through these people if you're using them for these emergency tasks. But do yourself a favor and guard the person's time who's doing your regular maintenance at all costs, because they're going to be a really great asset for you in your business. Now, I know this is a bit of a counterintuitive way to think about maintenance, and a lot of people are stuck on, and I formerly was stuck on, just only fixing things when they need to be done. And I'd hire a yard maintenance company to go by and do the yard maintenance, but they would never look at the the rest of the property. The rest of the property would only get attention when something was broken that needed fixing. I've since found that it's just so much more effective and more efficient to have someone go by there and take a full, real look at your property. And not just the cleaning company, because the cleaning company isn't necessarily gonna know what to look for. And the cleaning company, if they find something, likely won't actually be able to fix it. Now you might have a really handy cleaning team and that could be a really big bonus, but most often you're gonna wanna separate those two things. And what I've found is that this costs us much less in the long run because we have less fixing maintenance that needs to be done, less things that break. We have better reviews from our guests. We have less issues come up. So the peace of mind and the additional bookings that we get more than have it pay for itself. So again, this is something that I've just learned recently over the last kind of year or two that I've found has made a really, really big difference in my hosting and in how stress-free and how successful it is. If you found the same, or if you have thoughts, questions, comments, anything you'd like to share, let me know in the comment section down below. If you liked this video, if you thought it was valuable, if you thought it was an interesting point of view, then make sure you hit that like button, give this video a thumbs up. It really does help me out with growing this channel and reaching more people. And last but not least, if you're interested in staying up to date with the 2 new videos we post every single week on this channel about all things Airbnb, short-term rentals, and how to perform well, whether you're investing in short-term rental properties, you're managing them for other people, you're just hosting your own space. If you want to stay up to date with all that, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date. We post 2 new videos, like I said, every single week. So if you want more of those, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.